everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to take a look back at Die Hard 2 and review how good it is and ask the question as to whether it's the real Die Hard Christmas movie. The film itself was released back on July the 4th, 1990. It is of course a sequel to the iconic action movie from 1988. Seeing Bruce Willis reprise his famous role as New York detective John McClane, this time starring alongside William Sadler, Dennis Franz, Bonnie Bedelia, R. Evans, and the film was directed by Renny Harlin. It sees John McClane once more meeting up with his wife, this time at a busy airport in Washington during the hectic Christmas season. John's day soon gets even more interesting when he encounters two criminals within the luggage section of the airport. Sensing something more dangerous, he tries to warn the airport police, who quickly dismiss him. But reality soon hits when the terrorists take over the airport control tower and all of its communications. Led by the ruthless Colonel William Stewart, the terrorists plan to help escape corrupt military leader Roman Esperanza, who's being transferred over by plane. Constantly frustrated at being ignored, McClane takes actions into his own hands to stop the terrorists. Events continue to escalate. He finds himself in a race against time to help regain control of the communications as his wife's plane remains airborne, perilously low on fuel. Now, amidst all of the regular discussions around Christmas time surrounding the first film, and whether it's a Christmas movie or not, I will always and continue to maintain that the first film simply isn't a Christmas movie. But Die Hard 2 has much more of a legitimate case of being one. Whilst the first movie also takes place during the Christmas season, the time period itself has very little influence over the main story. Take out the Christmas setting and the dynamics of the story still stay the same. Now, we could also say this about the sequel. The plot, as the first film, still has John McClane using all of his wits and tenacity against terrorists. The movie, however, integrates much more the Christmassy elements in terms of the wintry backgrounds and the snowy backdrops for the main story which takes place. And I think that's always something that should be expected for any Christmas movie. And the movie does very well in terms of its overall cinematography and aesthetic in creating that cold, freezing atmosphere, again what we should expect to see from a Christmas movie. And the film also conveys a sense of chaos and disorder that an airport during the Christmas season would come under in a situation like this. It does generate a sense of peril and stakes as we see scenes of panic and chaos and stress as the events continue to escalate. Now, as a movie itself, I've always felt that Die Hard 2 overall is a solid, entertaining actioner, establishing its setup and its race against time narrative, which helps to keep it compelling. Now, obviously, it was always going to be a challenge following in the first film, which is a literal complete story. The movie itself will forever have its impact in changing the dynamics and the rules of the action genre. And to be honest, a sequel really wasn't needed outside of financial gain following the first film's success. But Die Hard 2 does a good job of standing on its own. Yes, the plot and setup is like the original, but you don't really need any reference of the first film in order to watch this one. And that's always what a good sequel should be. Now, by having the setup within the airport, Die Hard 2 operates within a much wider environment, which on the one hand does deny the more suspenseful, tight claustrophobia that came with the first movie. It doesn't quite have the same skillful setup or edge that we saw previously. But by having it in a much more open field, it does allow for some more spectacular sequences which do provide some thrill and excitement. Whether it's the intense shootout scene at the airport as we see the security forces get ambushed by the terrorists in trying to regain control of the communications. We have the often referred scene with McClane coming under heavy fire within the plane and escaping via the ejector seat to a massive explosion in a far less convincing projection shot. We have a great snowmobile chase following this sequence where we see McClane pursuing the terrorists once more, and it's a great scene shot with pace and energy. And the best action sequence of all involving the crashing of a plane which is manipulated by the terrorists, and this is where the film really does achieve a real sense of dread and terror. Seeing such a high death count on this type of scale is quite terrifying, again raising the stakes within the movie. Now, I will give the film criticism here for not truly emphasising on the devastation of this event. After it happens, it almost seems to forget about it as we head towards the overall climax. I guess the filmmakers wanted to stay more on the positive side of having McClane eventually stop the terrorists, but when you have a devastating sequence like that, it's something that you really can't ignore. Now, one area where the sequel does equal the first film is within the character of John McClane. Here, he's every bit as likeable, charismatic and a lively presence as what we saw within the original, where again the appeal of the character is having a situation thrust upon him that he has to react to, that he has to improvise during all of the various plot twists and turns that we see throughout the story. What I also like about this movie is how McClane does ask for support and help. He doesn't try to do everything on his own, and having all of his efforts met with a certain antagonism again draws us to the overall character. And Bruce Willis plays him absolutely great. Again, McClane has the action man competency, but there's still enough vulnerability and a self-depreciation and sarcasm to make the character watchable, and these elements were definitely lost within the 4th and 5th films within the franchise. Now, all of the supporting characters here are absolutely fine, with perhaps Dennis Franz making the most impression as the loud, stubborn main chief of police, Lorenzo, and all of his heated exchanges with McClane provide plenty of entertainment. Now, unfortunately, where this film fails is within the main antagonist, and sadly, William Sadler's Colonel Stewart is just a simple one-note, nondescript villain with very little character or influence. It's so pale in comparison to Alan Rickman's iconic Hans Gruber, a villain who really elevated the first movie with his overall presence. And this is truly where Die Hard 2 lacks the overall quality of the first film. In not having all of those nuanced character dynamics, the more cat and mouse layers, and these were the parts that made the first film much more interesting, more engaging and more memorable. Now, Die Hard 2 amplifies everything with much more sound and fury and action, but it ends up making far less impact as a result. So we then go on to the movie's overall release, and it was very much of a box office smash, pulling in over $240 million worldwide from a budget of around 60 to 70 million, doubling the gross of the first movie and also becoming one of the biggest hits within 1990. It also stood alongside Lethal Weapon 2 as the more successful first sequels of the iconic action movies that we saw of the 80s, whereas the likes of RoboCop 2 and Predator 2 proved to be far less successful. The movie's success also cemented Bruce Willis as a mainstream A-list movie star, and he wouldn't really gain this amount of commercial level again until the second sequel, Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was released in 1995, and that would go on to surpass Die Hard 2 both critically and commercially. The franchise would continue to see good box office success with the 4th entry, Die Hard 4.0, or Live Free Die Hard, which was released back in 2006. Now, sadly, the franchise would eventually crash and burn with the 5th entry, A Good Day to Die Hard, released back in 2013. But overall, Die Hard remains a rewatchable and very entertaining action flick, not as good as the first or third film, but still enjoyable enough. And overall, I would say, if there's any Die Hard film that we could classify as a Christmas movie, it would indeed be this sequel and not the original. There's my overall thoughts and feelings when looking back at Die Hard 2. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you'd like to see me cover any further topics or any other movies, television series, or any other subjects within the pop entertainment and culture scene, then also drop me a suggestion within the comments and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you in the future within the channel. Please consider hitting like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.